Breaking news at the top of the hour. We are following breaking news out of the district. MPD saying 3 people have been shot at 17th and I Street in Northwest. This is not far from the White House. You see the enormous response from police there in this live picture that we're providing you. 2 of the victims are National Guard members. Now, at this point, no word on their condition or the whereabouts of the suspect. We do have multiple news crews heading to the scene, and we will have a live report coming up. But this is the big story that we're tracking this hour. We also know that the D.C. joint, if we could go back to that last note that I had here, we know that the joint D.C. task force has confirmed that this incident involves National Guard members. And you see the National Guard members actively walking in this live picture. We know that the president is not at the White House. He has already traveled to Mar-a-Lago for the Thanksgiving holiday. But what has unfolded today is still not quite clear. Again, we know 2 National Guard members have been shot. We don't know their conditions. We don't know if these were National Guard troops from D.C. or if they were from out of state. We don't know what led up to this shooting, if there was an opportunity for the National Guard member to engage with the suspect. A lot that we don't know. However, the spokesperson that we talked to wouldn't immediately confirm or deny if a National Guard member had been shot. That's actually some notes from earlier. We do know that National Guard members have been shot. So as we look at these live pictures, there's a lot to gather from what we're seeing right now. The posture of police, it appears that they are not actively searching for someone. But again, this is just the vantage point of one camera, so we don't have the full scope of the activity that's unfolding. Our Rebecca Turco is heading to the scene along with our Christian Flores. Okay, so in just a short moment, our reporter Christian Flores will be ready to go, so we'll be going to him as soon as we can. As you can imagine, just getting to this scene is pretty tricky with a number of surrounding roads that are now shut down due to police activity. I understand Christian Flores is ready to go right now. Christian, tell us exactly where you are and what you know so far. Christian, you're live if you can hear me. This is Michelle.
Yeah, right now it's just obviously chaotic scene right now. It's just a lot of streets blocked off here, as you can imagine. Pretty bad timing with the holiday travel. But the one thing that we're obviously keeping our eyes on is just who all was shot. And as we're hearing from sources, it was 2 National Guard troops. You see a police officer walking down. They're obviously trying to keep this scene clean from, there's a lot of onlookers here curious what's going on whenever you see a massive police scene out here. Sources confirming 2 National Guard troops have been shot, 1 in critical condition. We're also hearing from those sources that a suspect is in custody. We heard from DC Fire and EMS earlier that they transported 3 people for a shooting right here at this intersection of H and 17th, I believe, really just a few blocks away from the White House, really close to the Farragut West Metro station, as well as the Farragut North Metro station. Quite a few stations out here. Right now you're seeing an ambulance down at the end of this block. And of the 3 people who were taken to the hospital, we're hearing from sources that one of those people was the suspect. So obviously a very dynamic situation right now. I mentioned earlier, you can imagine today being the day before Thanksgiving, very hectic scene in D.C. just about any day, but especially on a day like today. So a lot of roads are blocked off. Right now we're seeing MPD on scene, Secret Service, police.
Let's start moving!
Oh,
start moving out!
Getting told to move out. Getting told to move out.
Okay.
Hey, let's go!
All right, Christian. Yeah, we want you to follow the instructions of police there, so we'll allow your team to move. I was just going to ask Christian whether they have secured the scene, if he got a sense that they had roped off the area where their investigation would be focused. And it appears that this is all happened so quickly that perhaps they have not set up the perimeter that they want and that is necessary in order for them to conduct their investigation. We're going to try to get back to our Christian Flores once he gets into a position that is far away enough that he's not interfering with the investigation.
At least 2 National Guard members who have been shot. The Associated Press at this hour reporting that both of them are in critical condition. Reports of a 3rd person shot as well. We're trying to sort out whether or not that person is the shooter. Our sources telling us that the shooter has been taken into custody, is secured, perhaps shot himself. We don't know if that's by law enforcement or by other National Guard members. This coming, obviously, just one day before Thanksgiving, and a lot going on downtown in Washington, D.C., and very close to the White House. Perhaps a little bit closer there to the North Farragut Metro station, if you're familiar with that area. Farragut Park is just about a block away from Lafayette, which, of course, is butting up to the White House complex. So very close in proximity to where a lot of National Guard and law enforcement are on a daily basis. You can see just how many in this one picture as our photographer Raul pans around here and shows us a little bit of the scene, but that is a large section of Farragut Park there that is closed off, that square. Again, just about a block and a half from the White House. What we don't know at this hour is if there is still any sort of threat looming, if they are on the lookout for anyone else, or if there's one person that has been deemed at this point a suspect and shooter that has been taken down is the lone person that they need to be concerned about. Our Christian Flores is live on the scene. We want to get out to him. Christian, where exactly are you in relation to this shooting? What do you know?
Yeah, right now we are on 18th and H Street Northwest, I believe, just a few blocks from the White House, like you mentioned. And it's just been a chaotic scene ever since we got here. Just one of the more intense scenes I've been to since I've worked here. And right now, like you mentioned, we're hearing that 2 National Guard troops have been shot and are in critical condition. DC Fire and EMS telling us that a total of 3 people were taken to the hospital. Now, sources had also told us that the suspect is in custody, potentially one of the 3 taken to the hospital. But right now, you're just seeing Secret Service police trying to manage the traffic. I mean, just a number of blocks are taped off. In fact, we had to park about 4 or 5 blocks away just to get to this point. And as we're still pretty far away from the shooting scene itself. Right now, you see at the end of the block, you see quite a few MPD. It looks like a K-9 unit is here. We're seeing Secret Service police. Earlier today, we saw, or just a few minutes ago, we saw, I believe it was a Border Patrol officer making his way down to the scene. Anytime you have a shooting, you're going to get a number of city blocks taped off. But when it's a shooting this close to the White House, it's not a surprise to see just how hectic the scene is and just how much the officers here are really trying to keep the traffic flowing, not just to get the traffic flowing, but to keep the scene clear. I mean, we're still in the early stages of the investigation. This just happened just a little bit ago, just a few hours ago this afternoon. And obviously, the investigation's still going on.
Real fast, we do need to point out, as you're showing us some great shots here of how it is a tense scene. You've got law enforcement armed still being very careful with making sure that there's no other threat. We need to point out that the president is not there. He is in Florida. He left yesterday to head to Florida. And the White House spokesperson, Caroline Leavitt, telling us that he has been informed. They're keeping tabs on everything. But it is a part of the security apparatus that always exists around the White House. You have multiple law enforcement agencies, and it looks like we're seeing them there. You have, of course, MPD that's always in the area, but also Secret Service. You've got U.S. Park Police because of Lafayette Square right there. Are you seeing any sort of really physical action right now where they're running one way or the other, or does everyone seem like they've got the situation under control? Because it's important as we try to figure out whether or not this is an area that's still under some sort of threat.
I mean, right at this moment, we're not seeing a lot of running around, but just minutes ago, I imagine when we were on live earlier, you could have seen officers kind of running around, trying to get to the scene, trying to secure the scene. Earlier on, down here along Pennsylvania Avenue, I'm going to tilt our camera over there. We're just right by Pennsylvania Avenue. We saw a parade of MPD cars make their way down Pennsylvania Avenue. You see that whole street blocked off. It looks like by Secret Service police as well. And earlier today, we also saw an MPD helicopter up in the air just hovering around. We actually kind of heard it following us a little bit as we were driving down kind of along this path, trying to secure the scene. You know, there's still a lot of questions. I mean, we know the 2 National Guard troops have been shot and are in critical condition, but we're still waiting to figure out a lot of questions like why exactly this happened and, you know, what exactly led up to this. But about 20 minutes ago, we were across the street. If you're talking about really tense moments, we were across the street, and then you might have seen live on 7 News and 24/7, Secret Service police officer just yelling at everybody, get across the street, get out of here, and then they put up this yellow tape to just secure the scene. I'm sure you just saw a K-9 sniffing around here too, but at this moment, it's relatively calm, if you can believe it, compared to what we just saw maybe 15 minutes ago.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And keeping in mind, of course, that when it comes to the National Guardsmen, a lot in this area. Earlier this month, there was a report that there were still about 2,300 that were in the city. Remember, this is all part of what President Trump had made a surge in law enforcement to try and tamp down crime in the D.C. area. And there have been instances where people have expressed real displeasure with the idea of the National Guard being brought into Washington, D.C. They have certainly experienced their share of negative feedback, to say the least.
All right, Scott, as you say, one of the National Guardsmen did pass away. There is a tweet from the West Virginia governor who is saying that the 2 members of the National Guard were from his state. These are 2 West Virginia National Guard members. He wrote, "Denise and I are devastated by the news that 2 members of the West Virginia National Guard were shot earlier today in Washington, D.C. According to reports on the ground, one did not survive. The other was taken to the hospital." So we now know that the National Guardsmen, not from D.C., but from West Virginia. And Scott, as you were saying, we've had multiple states send their National Guard members here to Washington, D.C. for beautification, for also a ramp up of federal law enforcement in the nation's capital. And now 2 West Virginia National Guardsmen were shot. One did not survive. Scott?
Yeah, and as we talk about that, Victoria, and the fact that these Guard members were from West Virginia, there's reporting here that about 160 members of the West Virginia National Guard had volunteered to remain in Washington, D.C. for support and patrols around the city entering this holiday cycle. Again, this is some secondhand reporting here, but it's that they actually helped set up for a Thanksgiving meal through the Joint Task Force District of Columbia. This is a collaborative unit focused on public safety and cleanliness here. So again, a difficult situation. Obviously, there was a service member who had put out a message for the holidays on behalf of the West Virginia National Guard. They've been posting videos and making sure that they had recorded messages. And then, of course, this happens just the day before Thanksgiving. Yeah, okay, so Tom Rousey is joining us here in the studio as well. He says now that the report is that both of those National Guards members have passed away. Is that correct, Tom?
Morrissey of West Virginia.
Okay, so according to the governor, now both of those Guards members. So just a terrible day here in Washington, D.C. We're also looking for a lot more about what exactly is the current status of threat. Is this the one person, the suspect that they have reportedly shot and have taken custody of alive? Is that person the only person involved in this shooting, or were there more than one shooter? We're going to take a closer look once Christian Flores, our reporter on the scene, moves around to a different location and gives us another angle. But right now, what you're looking at, for those who are just joining us, is Farragut Park. This is the square that is just about a block and a half away from the White House complex. It is right next to the Farragut North Metro station, and that's something we'll check in with Tom on shortly because he handles a lot of transportation reporting for us. We'll find out what this means for Metro passengers who may be trying to get in and out of the city right now, and if trains have had to stop at all or stopped going through there or just kept going through. But what you are seeing, aside from all these flashing lights, are many members of multiple law enforcement agencies. Remember, there's something like 30 law enforcement agencies all throughout the city when you add them up. And there had to be an instant reaction from just about all of them. And we also are trying to find out whether or not there have been any more lockdowns, or if any agencies or departments, buildings, or a lot of hotels in that area, a lot of retail when you start getting along that K Street corridor. And so we'll be finding out just how secure that area is, as police tape certainly is going to be up for a long time, and those streets are going to be shut down for a long time as well. But the difficult news that we have gotten so far, of course, is that 2 National Guard members now declared dead after that shooting. We do have a new statement from West Virginia's governor saying, quote, "It is with great sorrow that we can confirm both members of the West Virginia National Guard who were shot earlier today in Washington, D.C. have passed away from their injuries. These brave West Virginians lost their lives in the service of their country. We are in ongoing contact with federal officials. As this investigation continues, our entire state grieves with their families, their loved ones, and the Guard community. West Virginia will never forget their service or their sacrifice, and we will demand full accountability for this horrific act."
We want to go now to that news conference where Christian Flores was setting up. We understand it is getting close to starting. If we can pop that picture up, we will share that with you live. Looks like they're just getting situated with the microphones there. But we expect to learn much more from law enforcement, MPD, the FBI, all leading this investigation. Doesn't look like they're quite ready yet. You got to imagine there are a lot of parties involved in this in terms of law enforcement. So to get everyone on the same page and make sure they are consistent with their messaging and the information that they have to share, that's very critical at a time like this, because what you don't want is during a breaking news situation for early information to come out that has not been confirmed or verified. Scott, you have something to add?
Yeah, we've got Governor Patrick Morrisey of West Virginia, the state of which these two National Guard members came from, has just put out some more information and tweeted out, we are now receiving conflicting reports about the condition of our two Guard members. Okay, this is very important, so let's pause for a second here. We had reported, because the governor had said, that both Guard members had died. He has, in the past 6 minutes, issued this statement on social media. I'll say it again. We are now receiving conflicting reports about the condition of our two Guard members and will provide additional updates once we receive more complete information. Our prayers are with these brave service members, their families, and the entire Guard community. This often happens when there is a chaotic scene where information is floating around very quickly, especially across the internet, and then you get statements. His statement originally may be accurate. We don't know, but the West Virginia governor, going back on his previous declaration that both Guard members had died.
And that speaks to what I was just saying in the sense of you have all of these agencies working on such a huge investigation and the need to not rush with information. We often want to know the why right away, but sometimes that requires more time and more careful review before information is shared.
Brad Bell, our reporter, our Maryland bureau chief, who's very tapped in with law enforcement, he has just passed this bit of information along to us, telling us that it is reportable and it comes from a high-ranking source that both soldiers, according to Brad Bell's high-ranking source, both soldiers were shot point blank in the head. Both are still alive, but in very critical condition. That coming into us at 4:25 p.m. from Brad Bell, as the entire 7 News team is digging more information out of this. We want to continue our team coverage of this breaking news with our Washington, D.C. reporter, Felicia Ashley.
Yeah, Felicia is live there in D.C. with more information. Felicia, the National Guard has been deployed in D.C. since August. What more are you learning?
Right. Well, we are in Northwest D.C. We were headed towards the scene, but stopped here because this has been a central part for the Guardsmen, or area rather for the Guardsmen. We are blocks away from the White House, blocks away from downtown, blocks away from Chinatown. This area, as we know throughout the summer until now, is where we actually saw a lot of that National Guard presence. So what we're learning right now, at least from community members, is they are saying this is something they have hoped to avoid throughout this whole time. Even as we learned or heard that the Guardsmen may be leaving or filtered out of the district, many people echoed to me that they're just thankful that this hadn't happened. So now for them to hear that 2 Guardsmen were shot today, this is exactly what all community members were preventing, or rather did not want to see or happen. This was part of the contention for those who were against this, and also those who were in support of seeing the Guardsmen here also did not want this to happen. So what we saw today is literally something that all of the community, no matter what side anyone was on, did not want to experience. Right, so I'm going to keep pushing to learn more. Go ahead.
Yeah, we're just going to ask you. I mean, you've covered a lot of this this surge of law enforcement over the past couple of months, especially regarding the National Guard. You've talked with members of the community about that. Did you experience or come across a lot of people who had a big problem with having the National Guard here in D.C.?
There was a mix in some communities who possibly already felt over-policed would say that they did not want the presence there, but then there were other communities who also said they wanted to see this heightened presence, who also said just made them feel secure seeing the men and women in uniform walking around. Some who honestly said to me that they didn't see them really doing much in a sense of intervening in the community, but just being a presence that they said felt good to see them. As we reported, in some places like Union Station, we saw a lot of community members taking pictures with them. We saw even some of the National Guard's members taking pictures of tourists. So that was the relationship there at Union Station. In other areas, we saw the National Guardsmen providing that support to law enforcement. And in some areas that really say they needed more of a presence, period, whether it was police, law enforcement, federal enforcement, some of those neighborhoods did like seeing the Guardsmen to add extra security in places they felt the police either were not or were not stepping up to provide that presence. So there's been a mix, depending on where you ask. Some areas that wanted more of that presence, others who felt that it truly wasn't needed.
You're talking there, Felicia. I'm just thinking about some of the calls from east of the river where communities wanted to see more of a police presence, and the real shock that comes with where this shooting happened. I mean, the heart of downtown, heavily traveled area, tourist district, steps away from the White House. What's your take on that?
I mean, you hit it right on the nail. You said there were some parts on the other side of the river who mentioned that they did want this presence here. Areas that said they've been dealing with a lot of crime. They needed something. They needed someone to be there to help draw down what they were seeing when it came to crime, and especially with juveniles getting involved. And they said they felt that in some areas when the Guardsmen were here. As you mentioned, this shooting is something that no one wanted, something that I'm sure if I were to go back to those communities today, they will say it's exactly what they wanted to avoid. They didn't want this point of what may have been contention, and they didn't want it to lead to this. So those who did or did not want the Guardsmen here, all around, they didn't want violence towards them at any point.
Yeah, safer DC is what everybody has been pushing for, no matter what side of the debate you're on. Felicia, thank you so much.
7 News' Rebecca Turco is live outside of George Washington University Hospital in Northwest with a lot more now, too.
Rebecca, what new are you learning from there?
Yeah, well, I'm learning from a law enforcement source that at least 2 of the victims are at the hospital here. It's unclear if the 3rd victim is at a different hospital. I'm told possibly MedStar, but obviously this is a developing story minute by minute, and there has been conflicting information. So we'll work to give you more details as we learn them. But again, we know as it relates to the National Guard's members, they are both in critical condition tonight. The suspect, who was also shot, is in custody. So we're working. I don't believe in the press conference they mentioned the condition of the suspect, but as it relates to the 2 National Guardsmen members, we know that they are in critical condition. And in the meantime, it's been a busy scene, if you will, by the hospital here. We've seen police cars coming and going really all throughout the night. A busier police presence than you would normally see in this area. So as the investigation continues and as we learn more, you know, we'll update you on that for sure, but certainly a big police presence in this multifaceted investigation. And again, the 2 National Guard members are in critical condition tonight. Back to you.
Yeah, and that area, Rebecca, that hospital is where we have seen many people brought from a sensitive situation or shooting over the years because of its proximity to the White House complex, to the U.S. Capitol. And so that is a well-qualified group that is ready to receive whatever emergency comes its way. And important to note, as you did, there was conflicting information earlier today, and we just want to stress the clarifier there. The West Virginia governor had earlier today posted on social media that both of those National Guard members had died, and then clarified that that was not necessarily the case, that indeed they're in critical condition. So no one should get ahead of this story. We have to take this as it comes, and the information that Rebecca just providing, that they are both being treated at GW University Hospital, certainly better news than what we were fed earlier this afternoon. Our Christian Flores has been at the scene for several hours now. He has some new information. Christian?
Well, it's still a chaotic scene out here. Just in the last few minutes, police put this new yellow tape here, just kind of keep us a little bit away from the scene. But as far as, scenes, I think the last thing that comes to mind as far as anything like this is when the two staff members from the Israeli embassy were shot and killed quite a few months ago. We spoke with someone who saw the aftermath of the shooting out here. He's been in D.C. for decades. He says the last time he's seen a police response anything close to this has been 9/11 or shortly after the Oklahoma City bombings, where there was just an increased security presence around the White House and around various other buildings here in D.C. I want to get out of the way, just kind of show you, because you can still see just where all of the investigators from MPD and from federal agencies are gathered. It's a little bit of a tough scene because there are a lot of people out here. We're getting it cleared up now, but you can see just how many people are out here, how many federal investigators, local investigators. There's going to be obviously a partnership. This is going to be going on for quite a while. We've been here for quite a few hours, but you heard from the press conference from FBI Director Kash Patel, as well as MPD Mayor Muriel Bowser, or D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, MPD leaders, saying that this was a lone gunman. Still figuring out motive, what exactly led up to this, why this shooter shot these two National Guard troops. But they said that this was a targeted attack. This was an ambush. That was coming from the mouth of FBI Director Patel. So obviously still a lot of questions that need to be answered. I spoke with someone from the mayor's office, seeing if there was going to be any other updates. Obviously, it just depends on what happens later tonight. What if the two National Guard troops, if their conditions worsen, if there's any updates in the investigation. Keep in mind the suspected shooter is also in the hospital after being shot, so it could still take a while before investigators really get a good idea of what was going through the shooter's mind when the suspected shooter fired his gun at the two National Guard troops.
All right, Christian Flores, thank you for that live reporting. We want to go to our Rebecca Turco, and she has some new information about the suspect. Rebecca, you're now hearing that the suspect is actually the one being treated at the hospital where you are, George Washington Hospital.
Yes, I'm just learning that from a D.C. official, and I'm also learning that the two National Guard members are being treated at MedStar Washington Hospital Center. And it's worth mentioning that both of those hospitals are level 1 trauma centers. So that means that that's the highest trauma designation. They can treat the most critically ill patients. So all of the victims really are in the best hands that they could be in. We know the two National Guard members are in critical condition. That is the last update that we got from that press conference just a little bit earlier. In the meantime, there are still police in the area. There's been kind of a steady stream of police cruisers that have been parked, also that have been circling the area. And I'd imagine over at MedStar, it's a lot of the same situation. So again, we are working to get updates on current conditions, but at last check, both National Guard members remain in critical condition. Michelle, Scott.
Yeah, you talk about the quick response by medical personnel on this one as well. U.S. Park Police had pushed out an alert about an hour ago explaining their role, and they said they responded to the scene of the shooting today at 17th and I Street Northwest, secured a landing zone near the Washington Monument, and transported one of the victims to a local hospital by U.S. Park Police Aviation. So, we've said it before, we'll say it again. It was an all-hands-on-deck situation in Washington, D.C. today.
Thank you all for being here on this difficult day. As you know, my name is Janine Pirro. I am the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, and I am joined here by several individuals who represent agencies who have been working around the clock since this horrific event happened. To my left, we have the director of the FBI. We have General Leland Blanchard of the National Guard. Mayor Bowser is here as well. We have Frank Saldana of the DEA, Chris Hecht of DHS, Executive Assistant Chief Jeffrey Carroll of the MPD, Darren Cox of the Washington FBI Field Office, and a Special Agent in Charge, Samuel Ward of the ATF in Washington. Now, I want to provide you with an update on the tragic shooting that occurred on two brave members of the West Virginia National Guard as they served in Washington, D.C. Unfortunately, today, as most families join together to give thanks for the blessings that have been bestowed upon them, two families are shattered and destroyed and torn apart as a result of the actions of one man. First and foremost, our hearts go out to the victims and their families. These are dedicated service members who were performing their duties in service to our nation, and they are currently in critical condition. They have undergone surgery. We pray for their well-being as they continue to be cared for in the best possible way. We have been in constant contact with their families and have provided them with every resource needed during this difficult time. The two National Guards men that we're talking about are Sarah Beckstrom, who's 20 years old, and Andrew Wolfe, who is 24 years old. They were uniformed members of the West Virginia National Guard, and they were in D.C. to keep D.C. safe, pursuant to President Trump's executive order to make D.C. safe and beautiful. They answered the call, they took the charge, they volunteered, they put their lives on the line for people they don't even know. And that, unfortunately, is becoming a reality more and more for the members of law enforcement. Yesterday on Thanksgiving Eve at approximately 2:15, near 17th and I Streets in the northwest section of the district, near the Farragut West Metro station, two uniformed guardsmen were ambushed in a brazen and targeted attack. A lone gunman opened fire without provocation, ambush style, armed with a .357 Smith & Wesson revolver. One guardsman is struck, goes down, and then the shooter leans over and strikes the guardsman again. Another guardsman is struck several times. Fellow guardsmen who were there responded immediately, engaging the suspect, neutralizing the threat, and subduing him at the scene. He was transported to a local hospital where he remains, as we speak, under heavy guard. Thanks to the swift and coordinated response of the National Guard and the Metropolitan Police Department, no additional victims were harmed, and the scene was secured within minutes. The suspect, he has been identified as Ramanullah Lakanwal, a 29-year-old Afghan who entered the United States under Biden's Operation Allies Welcome, a program following the disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. He resided in Bellingham, Washington, with his wife and, we believe, 5 children. And we're working very closely with our federal partners, especially DHS and the FBI, to review his immigration history and the vetting process itself. What we know about him is that he drove his vehicle across country from the state of Washington with the intended target of coming to our nation's capital. As we stand here today, the charges that are appropriate right now are 3 counts of assault with intent to kill while armed, a violation of D.C. Code 22-401 and D.C. Code 22-4502. He will also be charged with possession of a firearm during a crime of violence. He faces 15 years under the assault with the intent to kill. We intend to continue monitoring what the charges will be, depending upon the well-being of the guardsmen. We are praying that they survive and that the highest charge will not have to be murder in the first degree. But make no mistake, if they do not, that will certainly be the charge, murder in the first degree. The Department of Justice, under Attorney General Pam Bondi, is committed to a thorough and an impartial investigation where we will hold this perpetrator accountable under the full weight of the law. Now, Sarah and Andrew volunteered. They came here to protect the people of the district, pursuant to a crime emergency that President Trump rightly declared in this city and in other cities across the country. Our nation's capital should not and must not be a place where evil comes to commit violence, whatever their cause or motive may be. We should not have to live in fear in the nation's capital, especially by one who came here from a foreign country. through a process that was so absurd that he came through and released into this country, as many were, knowing virtually nothing about his vetting. This is what happens in this country when people are allowed in who are not properly vetted. These guardsmen and all who are here to protect the district are the line that separates a civilized society from a barbaric one. They are the ones who stand for law and order. This was not just an attack. It was a direct challenge to law and order in our nation's capital. And the individual will be made fully accountable. And though it seems that we have been here before under President Trump, make no mistake, and the Attorney General, we will not allow this to be normalized. It will be confronted, condemned, and prosecuted to the full extent of the law. Now, my message to the individual who committed these acts is you picked the wrong target, the wrong city, and the wrong country, and you will be sorry for the violence and the evil that you perpetrated in our nation's capital. And now I call upon the Director of the FBI, Kash Patel.
Thanks, Judge. I'll begin my remarks and end my remarks the same way, with prayer for our fallen soldiers, prayer for our law enforcement community, prayer for our National Guardsmen and women, prayer for our brave prosecutors at the Department of Justice and the offices of the D.C. United States Attorney. We must come together as a nation, especially on this Thanksgiving Day, and remember the sacrifices that so many are making around the world and around this country to secure our freedoms under President Trump's brilliant leadership and administration. I'll provide an update on the case as follows. It is an ongoing investigation of terrorism. Make no mistake about it. The FBI is leading out on these federal assault on a federal law enforcement officer investigation on many fronts. We immediately, with our law enforcement partners in the Metropolitan Police Department and the interagency, secured the scene, seized the weapon, sent in our evidence response team immediately to collect evidence, and started doing block-by-block canvasses. We are looking for and interviewing witnesses. The firearm and other materials have been sent to our Quantico laboratory already yesterday for immediate analysis. That work is ongoing. Partnering with the D.C. United States Attorney's Office, we have also executed multiple search warrants around the country to include the subject's last known residence, which is in the state of Washington. The search warrant was executed on that house last night or early this morning, and it is an ongoing process. All the individuals found in the house have been interviewed, and some interviews remain ongoing. We will not stop until we interview anyone and everyone associated with the subject, the house, and every piece of his life. There's also subject interviews, relations conducted in San Diego, pursuant to our ongoing investigation. So, as the judge noted, this is a coast-to-coast investigation being led right here in Washington, D.C., and this subject definitely did pick the wrong country. And we will rise together as a nation to show the world what we do here. And we are thankful that we have the Attorney General's brave leadership and President Trump's brave leadership and priorities to safeguard our communities. I also spoke to Director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, last night, and Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth. There is confirmation now that the subject had a relationship in Afghanistan with partner forces. We are fully investigating that aspect of his background as well, to include any known associates that are either overseas or here in the United States of America. That is what a broad-based international terrorism investigation looks like. We will provide continuous details to the American public while at the same time not jeopardizing the ongoing prosecution to ultimately hold this perpetrator accountable in our courts of law. We will provide as much transparency as possible, but as you can see, the breadth and scope of this investigation will continue. We will continue to hit the streets and hit every town and every house and talk to every witness. The men and women of the FBI and the Metropolitan Police Department and the interagency, to include the Department of Homeland Security, DEA, and ATF, are working tirelessly on this Thanksgiving Day. And I know just by talking to the leaders behind me that instead of going on and being with their families, everyone rogered up and showed up to work today. And none of them want to go home. That's the resolve that we have together as a team to bring to you justice for this heinous act of terrorism here in our nation's capital. And as the judge said, we will ensure that our law enforcement partners are out there in full force to make sure the world can enjoy our nation's capital. We will not let this heinous act of violence prevent people from visiting our beautiful nation's capital. And we will also continue to highlight any evidence that we can publicly. And as the judge said, this individual is in this country for one reason and one reason alone, because of the disastrous withdrawal from the Biden administration and the failure to vet anyway, in any way, shape, or form, this individual and countless others. And this administration has taken the rightful step to stop any further allowance of people with this similar background into the country. And we're thankful for that. And as I said, this investigation remains ongoing. And I think I'll turn it over to General Blanchard of the National Guard now. Thank you.
All across America this morning, families are waking up. They'll spend the day with their children, their brothers, sisters, husbands, wives, friends from across the community. There will be the smell of turkey, all the fixings. They'll watch parades, football games. They'll pray together. They'll talk about what they're grateful for. This morning, there are two families that will not have that opportunity. Andy and Sarah's families, they're spending the day reflecting on the past. And in the days coming, they'll reflect on and think about what could have been, what might be. Because regardless of the outcome, we know that their lives, their families' lives are all changed forever. Because one person decided to do this horrific and evil thing. And all across America, we are also reminded that there are many law enforcement agents, first responders, soldiers, service members all around the world who at best will come home, eat some cold turkey, open up Tupperware, eat what's left over, because they spent the day defending the American ideals, getting out there and getting after it on every American citizen's behalf. I will say that the District of Columbia National Guard, this task force, is more committed this morning to the president's directive to make D.C. safe and beautiful. Our resolve will be tested. It is being tested, but make no mistake, each and every one of these soldiers and airmen will meet and exceed the expectation that we have for them. They are, in fact, America's best. I'm proud of each and every one of them. I pray for each and every one of them today, and in particular for these two young service members who are willing to go above and beyond and pay whatever price our nation asks of them. I ask every American today to keep them in their thoughts and prayers as you go about your day. Thank you.
And thank you for being with us here at 6 o'clock. I'm Josh Chapin in for Scott Thuman. Happy Thanksgiving. We're continuing our coverage from the district. The two National Guardsmen who were shot just near the White House have been identified as 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom and 24-year-old Andrew Wolfe, both uniformed members of the West Virginia National Guard. We're told they had been deployed here in D.C. since August, and today we saw people putting flowers and other things at the scene of that shooting in Northwest near 17th and I. We are expecting prayer vigils in West Virginia throughout the weekend. We have team coverage for you tonight about what we've learned about the suspect and the condition of the two guardsmen. Our Rebecca Turco leading us off from MedStar, Washington, where at last check officials say both victims are in critical condition after surgery.
We've learned both victims are in their early 20s. They're from West Virginia. Sarah Beckstrom and Andrew Wolfe. A top-ranking source tells 7 News they were both shot in the head. The West Virginia National Guard says they've been on orders here since August when the president's federal surge began. The Joint Task Force for that mission tells us the pair were deputized again on the 25th, the day before the shooting, so they could continue to do patrols. Roughly 2,000 Guard members are performing a range of law enforcement duties in the district, short of arrests. Tonight, one of Andrew's neighbors is joining the countless people holding out hope.
He'd get the shirt off his back to somebody. He's just a really good guy. We always looked out for each other. Best neighbor you could ask for, really. It really caught us off guard. Really close to home. Just hopeful for his family. That's the biggest thing. His family is the biggest concern. I just hope his family is doing okay with it.
The New York Times is reporting Sarah's father says she's unlikely to recover. We'll let you know as soon as we get any updates on how each of them is doing. From the hospital, Rebecca Turco, 7 News.
And right now, 7 News is uncovering more about the shooting suspect. The U.S. Attorney for D.C., Jeanine Pirro, announced Ramnullah Lockenwall will be facing 3 counts of assault with intent to kill while armed and a charge of possession with a firearm during a crime of violence. Tom Rousey picks up our coverage with what else we know about the suspect.
Here close to where the shooting happened yesterday, you can still see some of the remains of the shattered glass. And over there, some folks have left flowers and an American flag. Today, we learned new information about the victims as well as the suspect.
Somebody drove across the country, came to Washington, D.C. to attack America. And that person will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
In a Thanksgiving morning press conference, D.C. and federal officials expressed outrage at what they describe as the ambush of 2 West Virginia National Guard members. The attack happened Wednesday afternoon outside the Farragut West Metro station entrance, just a couple blocks from the White House.
My message to the individual who committed these acts is you picked the wrong target, the wrong city, and the wrong country, and you will be sorry for the violence and the evil that you perpetrated in our nation's capital.
Authorities believe 29-year-old suspect Ramnullah Lockenwall lived in Bellingham in the state of Washington with his wife and 5 kids. He drove all the way to Washington, D.C. to commit what they say was a targeted attack. The CIA director says the suspect is from Afghanistan and had worked with the U.S. government, including the CIA there, before coming to the U.S. in 2021, when American troops withdrew from that country.
This individual is in this country for one reason and one reason alone, because of the disastrous withdrawal from the Biden administration and the failure to vet in any way, shape, or form this individual and countless others.
However, FBI Director Kash Patel did not answer directly a question about reports that Lockenwall was granted asylum earlier this year after Biden left office.
They put their lives on the line for people they don't even know.
The 2 West Virginia National Guard members who were shot have been identified as 24-year-old Andrew Wolfe from Berkeley County and 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom. When officials held a press conference early Thanksgiving morning, both were still in critical condition. Authorities say the suspect shot each of them multiple times, including shooting one of them when they were already on the ground. As of now, the shooter faces charges including assault with intent to kill while armed.
We are praying that they survive and that the highest charge will not have to be murder in the first degree. But make no mistake, if they do not, that will certainly be the charge.
The FBI director says the gun. He also says search warrants have been executed at the suspect's home in Washington state, as well as in San Diego, where the suspect has ties. Reporting in Northwest Washington, Tom Rousey, 7 News.
And I'm honored to speak with so many incredible members of the U.S. military and to wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving. Before we begin, I want to express the anguish and the horror of our entire nation at the terrorist attack yesterday in our nation's capital, in which a savage monster gunned down 2 service members in the West Virginia National Guard who were deployed as part of the D.C. task force, which has done such an incredible job. I mean, until yesterday, we literally had no incidents for many months. It was the safest place imaginable, and this is a different kind of crime. This is a really bad crime. Millions of Americans are praying for those heroes and their families. And I must unfortunately tell you that just seconds before I went on, right now, I heard that Sarah Beckstrom of West Virginia, one of the guardsmen that we're talking about, highly respected, young, magnificent person, started service in June of 2023, outstanding in every way. She's just passed away. She's no longer with us. She's looking down at us right now. Her parents are with her. It's just happened. She was savagely attacked. She's dead. She's not with us. Incredible person. Outstanding in every single way, in every department. Just horrible.
And that breaking news update as we come on the air at 11 o'clock tonight. One of the National Guardsmen shot in an ambush in D.C. has died. President Trump saying 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom has passed away from her injuries. Right now, the other guardsman, 24-year-old Andrew Wolfe, is still in critical condition tonight. Beckstrom and Wolfe, the two National Guard troops who were shot in D.C. yesterday. We have just learned also both of their orders in Washington had been set to expire. Beckstrom's father sharing this message on social media tonight saying, quote, "My baby girl has passed to glory. If I don't talk to you, don't be offended. This has been a horrible tragedy." Earlier tonight, I sat down with West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey just hours after we learned of Beckstrom's passing. Take a listen.
A lot of people don't realize that, but she volunteered to be in the district, and here we are on Thanksgiving, and we're talking about this heinous act that deprived her of her life. So I would say that a lot of the people are very angry. A lot of people ask the questions, why? Why? This was a kid that really, the unit, her colleagues, they loved her. I mean, they really did. And so it just is very deeply disturbing to a lot of people in West Virginia.
And tonight, National Guardsmen, first responders, you see them there line the streets as Beckstrom's body was taken from the hospital to the coroner's office near L'Enfant Plaza. That's the video of the procession to escort her. Christian Flores was our first reporter on the scene of the shooting Wednesday. He joins us live from MedStar Washington Hospital, where that processional for the National Guardsmen ended. Christian, we turn to you now with the very latest.
Yeah, a little more than an hour ago, a convoy of first responders lined up to honor the fallen troop. It really has been a very emotional day out here, understandably so. And this is a tragedy that has really struck everyone, sent shockwaves all across the country. And this investigation also spans coast to coast.
She's just passed away. She's no longer with us. She's looking down at us right now.
A tragic turn in the shooting of two National Guard troops in D.C. During his Thanksgiving address, President Trump confirming 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom has died.
Highly respected, young, magnificent person. Started service in June of 2023. Outstanding in every way.
24-year-old Andrew Wolfe fighting for his life in the hospital. These members of the West Virginia National Guard stationed in D.C. to perform high-visibility patrols as part of the White House's crime-fighting strategy in the city.
Scary when thinking that one of our people are down there getting hurt. So, you know, especially as somebody that works hard and goes to work every day and gets hurt like that.
You get the shirt off his back to somebody. He's just a really good guy. We always looked out for each other. Best neighbor you could ask for, really. It really caught us off guard, really close to home.
Their lives, their families' lives are all changed forever because one person decided to do this horrific and evil thing.
Somber moments.
Let's start moving!
Oh, a little more than 24 hours after chaos descended upon D.C., just blocks from the White House.
Very simple word, bedlam. Many people were walking down saying service members were just shot, National Guardsmen, so there was a concern. Our restaurant was put on lockdown.
Law enforcement leaders confirming the suspect, 29-year-old Ramanella Lockenwall, drove to D.C. from Washington State to allegedly carry out the shooting, what they're calling an ambush targeting the two troops. He's charged with assault and possession of a firearm.
Detectives have interviewed his family as well as potential associates in San Diego.
It is an ongoing investigation of terrorism. Make no mistake about it. We were able to serve search warrants literally overnight and through the night.
All night.
And we were able to hit the house in Washington State. During that process, we seized numerous electronic devices to include cell phones, laptops, iPads, and other material that is being analyzed as we speak.
You picked the wrong target, the wrong city, and the wrong country, and you will be sorry for the violence and the evil that you perpetrated in our nation's capital.
And with tonight's developments, more charges are expected for the suspect. You just heard from U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro in that same press conference. She says that she will charge first-degree murder in the event of a death in this case. Reporting live in Northwest D.C., Christian Flores, 7 News.
Christian, thank you. Speaking of the U.S. Attorney for the district, she announced that the suspected shooter will be facing 3 counts of assault with intent to kill while armed and a charge of possession of a firearm during a crime of violence. Pirro says the 29-year-old Afghan national entered the United States in 2021 under Operation Allies Welcome. That was an effort coordinated by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security to support Afghan resettlement in the U.S. during the Biden administration. Pirro says the suspect's residence is in Washington State and that he traveled again all the way from there to D.C. to ambush the 2 guardsmen.
We will not stop until we interview anyone and everyone associated with the subject, the house, and every piece of his life.
And that is FBI Director Kesh Patel says search warrants were executed at the suspect's home in Washington State and in San Diego, where he has ties. That gun that was used here was sent to a lab as well in Quantico.
Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jasmine Stiles. First on 7 News at 11, a memorial and American flags fill the site where 2 National Guard members were shot this week. In their home state of West Virginia, people gathered for a vigil in Webster Springs last night for 20-year-old specialist Sarah Beckstrom, who died in what authorities are calling an ambush attack. Today, U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeanine Pirro said charges against the 29-year-old suspect have been upgraded. Our team coverage on this shooting that rocked the nation's capital begins outside the hospital where Liana Golden joins us with an update.
Jasmine, we're here at the MedStar Washington Hospital Center in Northwest D.C. Our crews have been here around the clock for the past 48 hours. At last check, Andrew Wolfe, the National Guardsman from West Virginia, is still in critical condition. That is the very latest update that we've received from officials. We are all hoping and praying that he can pull through. In the meantime, the community and the country continues to mourn the death of Sarah Beckstrom. A stranger paying respects on the streets of D.C. to Sarah Beckstrom. This memorial now sits outside the Farragut West Metro stop where the 20-year-old soldier from West Virginia was shot on Wednesday in what authorities say was an ambush-style attack.
I don't know if it's really hit me the hardest yet.
Beckstrom's former boyfriend of 6 years says they grew up together, and he never thought he'd have to say this kind of goodbye.
A little hard to grasp the whole concept that there ain't no more of her around. Of course, she'll always be around, as you know, but hard to grasp she won't be back in town.
People want justice. People want accountability.
West Virginia Governor Patrick Morrisey among the many calling for justice. On Friday, U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeanine Pirro said charges against suspected shooter Ramanullah Lackenwall will now be upgraded to first-degree murder after Beckstrom's death. Pirro indicated they'd seek the death penalty.
And the individual who did this will pay the ultimate price, according to the Attorney General Pam Bondi. As well, he should once and if a jury returns a verdict.
Authorities say the suspect drove to the nation's capital from Washington State, where he lived with his wife and 5 kids at this apartment complex. All electronic devices there, including cell phones, laptops, and iPads, now under analysis. Lackenwall came to the U.S. from Afghanistan 4 years ago after working with the U.S. war effort, including the CIA. In the wake of the shooting, President Trump took to Truth Social, saying he will permanently pause migration from all third world countries. And just this evening, we're learning that D.C. police will be working to support the National Guard's troops here in D.C. We're still working to clarify exactly what that means, but most likely we can expect to see MPD officers roving the streets alongside National Guard's members starting as early as this evening. Reporting in Northwest Washington, I'm Liana Golden. back to you.
We're also following the latest developments on the ambush that killed one National Guard soldier and injured another in D.C. the day before Thanksgiving. Sergeant Andrew Wolfe is still in critical condition tonight. Specialist Sarah Beckstrom died from her injuries on Thursday. Tonight we have team coverage with the very latest. Our national correspondent Christine Frizzau tracking major changes to an asylum program for refugees from Afghanistan. But we want to begin with our Liana Golden, who is in the district where Beckstrom is being remembered tonight.
It's been a rainy and cold day here in D.C., a holiday weekend on top of that. You'd expect these streets to be completely empty, but no, every single person who has passed this memorial here at 17th and I has stopped to pay their respects, and people coming up now to lay down roses. Pay their respects to Sarah Beckstrom, who has passed away, and Andrew Wolfe, who is still in critical condition at a D.C. hospital.
It feels important to be here to commemorate a 20-year-old who passed away.
It doesn't matter that D.C. local Heather Griffiths didn't get a chance to meet Sarah Beckstrom. Knowing the West Virginia soldier died serving her country is enough to bring Griffiths to tears.
This group of folks who are young and ambitious and choose to help our country.
Andrew Wolfe is still battling for his life. The array of personalized notes, American flags, flowers, and photographs hand-delivered to the spot he was shot, powerful reminders the community he was protecting is rooting for him to pull through.
God bless them for doing it, because they have a tough job to do, and one of my best friends is a police officer, and you never know if they're going to come home or not.
The suspect in Wednesday's shooting, 29-year-old Ramanullah Lakanwal, is an Afghan national. He's now facing a first-degree murder charge, and top prosecutors have indicated he could face the death penalty, the ultimate price, and a controversial one at that.
I'd rather see him serve a sentence. I'd rather see him grow old and potentially give us more answers.
It's hard to be the judge and the jury, right? But he was careless in what he did, and as far as I'm concerned, he has no reason to live anymore.
As flags fly high over D.C., troops in uniform continue to walk the very streets Wolfe and Beckstrom were walking to. As they pass the memorial growing by the minute, these locals urge their neighbors to take a moment to do the same.
Because it's important to pay tribute to Sarah and all of these amazing men who are out here protecting us, men and women who are protecting us.
Reporting in Northwest D.C., I'm Liana Golden, 7 News.
Thank you. New video tonight of a memorial still growing for the two National Guard members shot in an ambush attack in D.C. This is the setup of the scene outside the Farragut West Metro station. One of the soldiers hit 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom, died, you'll remember, on Thanksgiving. We showed you this emotional procession as her body was escorted from MedStar Hospital to the coroner's office. At this hour, the other soldier, 24-year-old Andy Wolfe, is still hospitalized. Our Tom Rousey joining us live. Tom, you got an update on Wolfe's condition? That's, I think, what everyone wants to know. How's he doing?
Yes, and there were some positive developments. That said, he is still in serious condition, according to the West Virginia government. Hospital still has a long fight ahead of him, but the positive news was the West Virginia governor says he was able to respond, non-verbally, but he was able to respond when a nurse asked a question. He said the family is taking that as positive news. Meanwhile, a lot of folks coming out here as well, not just to pray for Wolfe, but to honor the memory of Sarah Beckstrom, including, as you'll see on this sign, members of the Afghan American community.
That's not who we are. This isn't us.
Just like shooting suspect Ramanullah Lakanwal, Mustafa Kazemi says he came to the U.S. from Afghanistan in 2021. Also like the suspect, Mustafa says he helped the U.S. war effort by working with the CIA.
I was shot 5 times.
But the similarities end there. Mustafa says he and the vast majority of Afghans who came after the war love this country and appreciate the freedom they have here.
Most of them here have left behind lives, families, because they served the U.S. Constitution by serving U.S. military in Afghanistan.
Although there has been a lot of talk about how much vetting the suspect Lakanwal received before immigrating, over the weekend the Homeland Security Secretary said it appears he changed after arriving in the U.S.
We believe he was radicalized since he's been here in this country. We do
in his home community and state.
Lockenwall was shot during the attack and has still not appeared in court. The U.S. Attorney for D.C.'s office says he will appear as soon as he is medically able. Meanwhile, where the attack happened last Wednesday,
and I have a daughter her age, so I feel deeply horrible about this.
Many are coming out to pay their respects to the memory of 20-year-old Sarah Beckstrom and to pray for the recovery of Andrew Wolfe of Berkeley County.
I feel the pain from the families and I feel the pain from them.
And back out here live, you can see just how much this memorial has grown over the last few days. Authorities have indicated that if they have the opportunity, they will pursue the death penalty against the suspect who allegedly shot both Guard members just feet from where I am standing here. Reporting live in Northwest Washington, I'm Tom Rousey, 7 News.
We begin with that major development in the ambush of 2 National Guard members in D.C. I'm Victoria Sanchez in for Scott Thuman. Tonight, we know the suspect is officially charged with first-degree murder following his first court appearance today. He pleaded not guilty from his hospital bed, accused of killing specialist Sarah Beckstrom and wounding Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolfe. 7 News' Tom Rousey was inside the courtroom and shares new images revealed in court documents.
Ramanul Lockenwall did not physically appear at D.C. Superior Court today. Instead, he appeared by video from his hospital bed. Through an attorney, he pleaded not guilty to all charges against him. An attorney representing Lockenwall argued he should not be held in custody, in part because he had no prior criminal record. But the judge did not buy that, saying, quote, "It is clear that he came across the country 3,000 miles armed with a specific purpose in mind." U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeanine Pirro sat in the front row while arguments were made in court. After the hearing, she applauded the judge's decision.
The crime is one that we believe we will be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. And I think the judge was very astute when she made it clear that she believed that he crossed the country with a weapon, with the intent to commit a crime of violence. And her decision was a correct one based upon the facts and the law.
New images of the attack last Wednesday afternoon were released. Lockenwall allegedly shot West Virginia National Guard members Sarah Beckstrom and Andrew Wolfe. Beckstrom died the next day. Wolfe remains in the hospital. Court records indicate Lockenwall, who came here from Afghanistan in 2021, yelled Allahu Akbar during the attack. And those records say he tried to shoot a third Guard member who instead shot him. Yet another Guard member leaped onto Lockenwall as he tried to reload his gun. Now, Lockenwall is facing 4 charges, including first-degree murder. We're told, though, that more charges are possible. Lockenwall's next court hearing is scheduled for January 14th. Reporting outside D.C. Superior Court, I'm Tom Rousey, 7 News.
Today, 2 U.S. senators from West Virginia introduced a resolution to honor Army Specialist Sarah Beckstrom and Air Force Staff Sergeant Andrew Wolfe. Senator Shelley Moore Capito spoke this afternoon, calling both National Guard members heroes through their selfless sense of duty.
Sarah volunteered to work on Thanksgiving so that others who had families could go home to their families. She's been in the Guard for several years. She was a bright sunshine ray of life, not just for her, but for her fellow Guardsmen and also her family.
West Virginia's governor posted on social media just hours ago saying a community prayer vigil will be held Friday at 7 p.m. at Musselman High School, where Wolfe graduated in 2019. The governor also says doctors and Wolfe's family are optimistic about his current progress after he responded to some basic requests, such as giving a thumbs up and wiggling his toes. President Trump spoke about National Guard soldiers this afternoon during his 9th cabinet meeting since taking office. Take a listen to what he said about Specialist Sarah Beckstrom, who was killed.
She was an incredible person, highly respected, top of her class, everything. She was like a perfect human being. 20 years old, just started. She was like a baby. She was so proud. They were giving her a promotion. And she told the parents that she was getting a promotion, and they were so proud of her. Then they get a call that this happened.
7 News continues to bring you daily updates on the ambush here on air and on WJLA.com. You can scan the QR code there at the bottom of your screen. It will take you directly to our homepage where you can find new developments on this investigation.